everyone, let's talk about how to improve your presentation skills. Now, maybe you're a student that has to do a presentation, maybe you're a manager that has to do a presentation, or maybe you're someone that just has to do a presentation as part of your job. You came to the right place. Everybody starts out being very nervous about doing presentations. However, it's actually not that hard of a thing to master. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of persistence, and you can be an amazing presenter. Now, here's an article. It's called 14 Proven Ways to Improve Your Communication Skills, but they're actually talking about presentations. Let's go through it. Let's see what they got right, what they got wrong, and what they left out. Here we go. Okay, so number one, learn the basics of nonverbal communication. Yes, I would agree with this. The bottom line is that instead of just talking in a monotone at length, which sucks, you should learn to use your voice. You could use your voice, you could vary the register, you vary the volume, you can use gestures, you can use facial expressions. All of these are tools at your disposal. They will help make what you're saying come alive, and you'll be much more effective at communicating what you want to communicate to your audience. Okay, so get into the habit of doing this. And like everything, practice makes perfect. Now, number two, you have to over-communicate just to communicate. Yes, I would agree with this too. Listen, the reality of presenting is that when you're up there presenting, you are probably thinking that 90% of your audience is understanding exactly what you're saying, and they're on the level with you. However, the reality is that it's more like 30% of your audience is understanding everything you're saying, and they're on the level with you. The rest are either tuned out, or they're confused, or they were daydreaming, and that's just how it goes. So we have to overcompensate for this, okay? So like it says here, you have to over-communicate just to communicate. You got to put additional energy into your communication, into your speech. You've got to be a bit more animated. You got to raise your voice a little, okay? And you have to repeat. You have to repeat the main points. It's just that simple. Get into the habit of doing it. If you don't do this, you're going to find that your presentation doesn't go over that well. This will tremendously enhance how effective it is. Okay. Avoid relying on visual aids. Yes, I actually agree with this one too. It's rare that I agree with an article, point after point, but I agree with this. There are too many people that are relying on PowerPoint, like it says here, or any other type of visual aids, a slideshow or slides, to give a presentation. They seem to think that just reading slides to the audience in a monotone is presenting. And it is not. Let me tell you, it's extremely boring after the first minute. So don't do this. You have to make that come alive. When you use slides and visual components, they are not what's going to hold the audience's attention. The audience's attention is going to be on you, and it's going to depend on how effective you are. Your visual aids will not compensate for if you are not a very good presenter. So don't rely on them and thinking that all you have to do is show them to the audience. You don't. Think of it as delivering a speech. If you have visual aids behind you, that's great, but it is no substitute for your speech, for what you say. Okay, ask for honest feedback. Yes, I suppose. Engage the audience in discussion. Yes. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a discussion, a group discussion, but let me tell you, throwing out a question to the audience every 5 minutes or so can be extremely powerful. It keeps people engaged. It keeps people focused on what you're saying. They don't daydream. They don't tune out. And let me tell you, it's far more interesting listening to several people rather than just one person for a very long time. So yes, get into the habit of soliciting the audience for answers to questions, or you could ask if anyone has an experience with the thing that you're talking about. That helps to relieve monotony, so it's a very good tool to use. Just remember this, the 3 golden words. Don't be boring. If you can remember those 3 words and you can take those to heart, you will be a tremendous presenter, okay? Don't be boring. You can vary your voice. You can vary where you stand. You can vary what you do. You can vary whether you lecture or whether you lead a discussion. You can vary almost anything, and that's what makes it interesting. Okay, number 6, start and end with key points. Now, you know what we said up here? Somewhere up here it said that you have to over-communicate. You have to repeat, okay? And that's exactly what they're saying here. So you start by summarizing key points, the things you're going to talk about, and at the end, you summarize the same key points so everyone gets it. Okay, very, very good tool. Number 7, use the PIP approach. Well, PIP approach is something someone made up. It's talking about people at McKinsey. If you're not familiar, McKinsey is one of the top 3 management consulting firms in the United States. But basically what it says is PIP is purpose, importance, and preview. This basically comes from sales, okay? Before you start talking at somebody, you basically say, like, look, here's why I'm telling you this. This is what it's for, and this is why it's important, okay? And then this is a summary of what it's going to be. Okay, this is a summary of what I'm going to say. Okay, if people don't understand why you're telling them, like, you're maybe educating them on something, but they have no idea why. What good is this? You have to say the purpose. You say, this is what you can do with this information. This is what it will enable you to do. Okay? That's why it's important. And then you summarize what you're going to say. That way, everybody is now engaged. Everybody knows where your talk is going, and they'll get far more out of it. So very, very useful tip. I wouldn't call it the PIP approach, but I mean, as I say, this is just... this basically comes from sales, and you can see examples of it everywhere, and every kind of sales pitch. And I mean, you could see it in the structure of YouTube videos for a start. So yes, important. Okay, record important presentations for posterity. Yes, if you do a good job, record it. Master the art of timing. Okay, well, yeah, easier said than done, but something that comes with practice. Get comfortable speaking extraneously. Yes, this is a big one, okay? Extemporaneously means that you make it up as you go along. Now, what this is referring to is, instead of writing a speech word for word, okay, and then reading it to the audience, instead of doing that, you would write down the key points you're going to talk about, okay, in point form. That's what you're going to be looking at. Either it's going to be on a paper or on a slide or on something you have access to while you're giving your presentation. But you don't read words word for word that have been pre-written. Instead, you practice speaking properly about those key points in real time. Okay. Now, this is a skill that comes through practice, but you should practice this. If you can do this, okay, this is probably the single most important point in this article. If you can practice speaking off the cuff, you have a list of points, but you don't need to read word for word off a page. That is extremely powerful, extremely helpful. It'll allow you to crush it when you come to your presentations. Okay, so practice doing this. And like I always say, and everyone else always says, practice makes perfect. That is the key. Okay, number 11, get to know your audience. Well, look, what this means is that before you give a presentation to a random group of people, you need to know a bit about them. You need to know what their knowledge level is. You need to know why they're there. You need to know what they're hoping to get out of it. Just basic stuff like this. If you know these things, then obviously you can tailor your presentation to giving people what they're expecting and what they want. Okay? For example, if you're asked to give a presentation about mathematics and you're talking to a group of people about the basics of mathematics, but yet you find out later that all of them have PhDs in mathematics, your presentation probably didn't go down very well. So you just need to know the basics of who you're going to be talking to. Okay, number 12, add novelty to improve audience retention. Well, remember the 3 golden words. Don't be boring. If you can remember that and take it to heart, you'll be amazing, okay? Don't be boring. Vary things. Do different things, okay? All eyes are on you. You can lead people in the way that you want. You can take the presentation and you can shape it and mold it to whichever way you want to do it. And The more interesting it is, the more variance there are, the more variety of things that you do, the more interesting it will be. Okay? And the more interesting it is, the more people will get out of it. Focus on earning respect instead of laughs. Yeah, I suppose. But, I mean, if you're a naturally funny person, there's no reason why you can't use that to your advantage. Be a listener. Yeah, I suppose you have to listen before you can learn to talk and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, basically that's it. The most important thing, I think, to summarize would be practice makes perfect, okay? So preparation is the key, and practice is also the key. And the more variety you can bring to your presentation, the more interesting you can make it, the better you will be. And if you put the time into presentation skills, this will help you throughout your career, no matter where you are in your career, whether you're a student or you're an entry-level employee or you're an executive where presentation skills are extremely important. This is the key to success. It'll help you throughout your entire career. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much for your attention. You guys are awesome, and I will see you all on the next video. Take care.